Hi, this is Mark from LongIslandWatch.com and welcome to another episode of Watch and Learn. Today we'll be discussing tourbillons. People have been asking me to do a video on tourbillons for a while, and my reply has always been I don't own one, I don't have one, so I really can't do one. I'd want one in my hands to, to really do the touchy-feely, hands-on kind of thing. So I recently came across one from Seagull, and I have it up on the website for sale, but I figured it will make a great video. So let's do that. Before we get into it, I'm doing the 007 single dome and the 009 single dome. I'm not sure if I will take a double dome one yet for myself. I haven't decided yet. These two, as you can tell, they've been on my wrist quite a lot lately. So let's head on over, check out tourbillons, and hopefully educate you guys just a little bit. So a good background for this video would be the earlier Watch and Learns where I went over how automatic and mechanical watches work. Just briefly, in my right hand I have an Android Mystique. I believe it's a Citizen movement and a skeletonized Citizen. And my left is the Seagull Tourbillon. Both of them are not running, which is good. So just briefly, what is a tourbillon? Well, not even what is a tourbillon, but the tourbillon was invented around 200 years ago by Breguet. Breguet, a very prominent watchmaker. There's a brand by his name. Beautiful, beautiful watches. The hands are named after him. He's really, almost the father of, mechanical watches. Many inventions to his name. And what he sought to do was to reduce the variation in tolerances timing in the 4 vertical positions. Positions of a watch or a pocket watch can be, well, assuming this is vertical, it's not, it's tilted a bit back, but for the camera, assume this is vertical. You have 1 position, 2 position, 3 position, and 4 position. And then there are 2 more positions, dial up and dial down. But in those 4 vertical positions, gravity is pulling on the movement or the balance in differently every time, and the watch really needs to be regulated, adjusted for all of those positions. So what Breguet sought out to do was he said, you know what? Why don't we take the heart of the watch, which is the escapement, the balance wheel. Let's take that, put it in a little cage, and make it rotate. Once a minute generally is what it is. Once a minute with the seconds hand, and that way it would negate, cancel out any inconsistencies in various positions. Now, where this really came to be a great idea was in, obviously, the original watches were all pocket watches, and pocket watches generally stayed in your pocket in 1 position, with the pendant facing up, to wind it. And because they sat in 1 position all day, they never saw the other positions. So if you used a tourbillon, it would rotate it through every position, and it would really make a lot of sense. In a wristwatch, you can argue that just the daily use of the wristwatch as you move it on your wrist and you move during the day, you see all the different positions. So tourbillon in a wristwatch really is not necessary, and I know there's a lot of conflict on it. It adds a ton of complication to a watch, and really, I think, my opinion nowadays is it's added, for the coolness factor. You want to watch with a tourbillon just because you don't own one, and it is basically considered the epitome of mechanical watch complications because it is so difficult to make and produce. Even in a Chinese watch, which this is not a crap watch, it is a quality piece. It's a really nice Seagull. Even this Chinese mass-produced, if you want to even call it that, it's not really not mass-produced, tourbillon, retails around $2,000. A good Swiss tourbillon, forget it. I would love to own a tourbillon. I'm not going to yet. The other complication I'd love to own is a Rattrapant split seconds chrono, which I think is really nifty. Anyway, so let's zoom in a bit on the business of the watch, and then we'll talk about this a bit. So I'm about as close as I'm going to get, and so the watch is stopped, obviously. On the left is the balance wheel. I'm sorry if the clasp is in the way. I don't feel like taking it off. On the left is the balance wheel, and then you can see 2 pallet stones, top and bottom, and they engage and disengage this silver wheel here. Let me get my pointy thingy. This silver wheel here, this is the escape wheel, and then these teeth, these stones, these jewels, these pallet stones, 1, 2 are on a fork. They go back and forth, engage and disengage this escape wheel to the tune of the frequency of the balance wheel, and that's how the watch keeps time. So if I wind the watch, whoops, you should see the balance start, and then the escape will start going, and those little there they go, very slowly, and it's off. Okay? So that escape wheel is basically tied to the seconds hand, And the locking and unlocking of those pallet stones is governed by the frequency that this wheel is oscillating back and forth. And that's how the watch keeps a cadence, keeps a rhythm, keeps time. So this whole thing is static. It does not move. What the tourbillon seeks to do is take all of these components, this wheel going back and forth, the fork, the stone, the escape wheel, and make them rotate once per minute. And just thinking about that makes my head hurt. I don't know how the heck anybody thinks of that idea, and then secondly, how exactly they implement it. Welcome the tourbillon. So the tourbillon, as you see, it's, usually tourbillons are skeletonized because you want to see it. I mean, there's a lot of work going on here. Usually the tourbillon is represented as an open heart style watch. Years ago, when the Germasian phase was running amok, what a lot of watch companies would do is they would take an opening in the dial like this, and they'd, instead of putting an offset seconds hand, they'd put a gear or a wheel, and it would spin once a minute. And that was meant to look like a tourbillon. It was not. It is not. Tourbillons, again, are extremely expensive and really is high watchmaking. And for a company like Seagull to do something like this, it says something about their prowess. I mean, it's a beautiful movement. Check it out. Finished very well. Blued screws, Geneva coats, if you will, or Geneva stripes. Just really, really well done. And what I am going to attempt to do, I'm going to do everything from dial side. I think it's a better skeleton dial side. I'm going to get the try to get that hour hand out of the way. But let's see what we can notice here. So here's the balance wheel. It takes up most of the circle, right? Here's the escape wheel flying off to the side of it. There's a little pointer, I believe, under the hour hand. Is it down here? It's down here. There's a little pointer. This is kind of pointing to the seconds, 25 seconds. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see the pallet stones. I can't see them in the viewfinder. We'll zoom in a minute and see if we can highlight them. So what's going to happen is that when we run the watch, this, again, same thing that you just saw, we'll wind the mainspring, which is somewhere else in the watch, and it will eventually, want to move this escape wheel, which will knock the pallet stones in and out of it, and it will turn and then the balance will go back and forth. But the net effect is that this entire contraption will rotate within this 60-second subdial. So I'm going to wind it. I'm glad it stopped because I don't know if this watch hacks. There it goes. You can give it enough of a wind so it keeps going. So there it goes. And you can see the escape wheel is moving. If you look at it, it's not as smooth. It's very herky-jerky motion, if you will, and that's the locking and unlocking of the pallet stones. And then there's the balance going back and forth. And now I'm going to see if I can get an angle where we can possibly see the pallet stones. Okay, so I can kind of see it, and I hopefully, I know it appears better on the screen than it does in the viewfinder, but if you look right here on either side of this post, you will see little pieces going in and out really fast, and that's the locking and unlocking of the escape wheel. And again, this whole thing, oops, I was checking to see if it hacks. It doesn't, unfortunately. This whole thing is rotating once a minute. That's amazing. So think about it. The timekeeping mechanism of the watch, the thing that beats, keeps the watch beating every second, is actually turning itself. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. But like I had said in the beginning, this is more of, I hate to say gimmick, but it really is. It's more of a gimmick. The benefits to timekeeping are, not really, in this situation, are not really well defined. We make, or, Swiss watch companies make excellent movements that are not tourbillons, that are extremely, extremely accurate. One of the disadvantages of this is that if you think about it, in the Miyota-based watch that I showed you before, when you wound it up, the only thing that the spring had to power, besides the hands, was the locking and unlocking of the escape wheel and the balance, going back and forth. But now, the mainspring has to power this entire carriage spinning around. So there's a much higher load on it. It's a larger spring. Larger springs bring different torque problems to the equation, everything else. Anyway, I just wanted to show you how that, look, isn't that beautiful? check that out. I just want to show you how the tourbillon works, and that it really is a marvel of watchmaking. Even if it's not exactly functional, useful, wow, it is breathtaking. You know, as a mechanical engineer, as anyone that can appreciate anything that's, you know, fine, small things, this is absolutely amazing. So this has been Mark from LongIslandWatch.com with Watch and Learn, showing you the tourbillon. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below, and I will be sure to address them as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.